Will Lewis. Let's send it over to Cody Alcorn, who was inside the courtroom all afternoon for us.
Hey, Tori, right now we are waiting to hear from Judge Cooper, who will rule on some key motions in the criminal case against Lewis, whose trial is set to begin on Monday. Now, a bizarre afternoon, no doubt, in Greenville, as an unexpected hearing in this case was called at the last minute. Lewis faces a list of charges, including misconduct in office. Now, this case broke after his former assistant, Savannah Neighbors, accused him of sexual assault and sexual harassment. Lewis says the relationship was consensual. Now, today, the defense tried to convince the judge to not allow Neighbors to testify about this trip the two took together in Charlotte. There have been recordings of calls between Lewis and Neighbors. That was played inside that hearing today. And I can tell you, it's kind of surreal to hear those conversations in court. Fox Carolina's Kayla Conboy is live outside the courthouse in downtown Greenville. She sat right behind me in this hearing. And Kayla, I think the surreal thing wasn't kind of shocking. During these hearings, you heard Lewis talk to Savannah Neighbors about the troubles he was having with his wife, and his wife was sitting just feet from us in that courtroom.
That's exactly right. The two did walk out holding hands, but she remained very silent, sitting there behind him in that courtroom. And this whole thing, very unexpected, as Cody just mentioned. It actually, we got wind that it was going to be happening just within that same exact hour. It happened right upstairs, courtroom 2, and this motion coming late in the game, with the trial expected to start Monday morning. Now, both sides going back and forth on whether or not the testimony about what happened in that Charlotte hotel room should be allowed in court. Suspended Greenville County Sheriff Will Lewis kept his head down for most of the hearing, his wife silently sitting right behind him, as his attorney Roush Wise stood up asking the judge to consider a motion to ban some of the testimony in the trial next week, much of it stemming from a trip Lewis took to Charlotte with his former assistant, Savannah Neighbors. Neighbors says Lewis assaulted her on the trip, an accusation he denies.
Our position's been that what happened in Charlotte is not relevant to an indictment that alleges all the events occurred in South Carolina, and therefore that should not be admissible in this case. Misconduct in office is a South Carolina crime and arguably cannot occur in North Carolina.
That was their argument to the judge. However, 16th Circuit Solicitor Kevin Brackett had a different point, saying the location doesn't matter. He says either way, a trust was violated, and where it occurred is irrelevant.
The crime itself is violating the trust of the public in Greenville County. Where he violated that trust doesn't matter. The public's trust in Greenville was violated by his conduct in Charlotte.
There were no new details talked about in court, but the judge mentioned he was unfamiliar with the case. So Solicitor Brackett filled him in on the allegations and played 2 tapes, separate recorded phone calls between Neighbors and Lewis.
I don't want to take any chances. Like, you are a political figure, whether you want to be or not, and I'm not going to be the one to screw this up.
The conversation took place after Neighbors says she woke up to find him on top of her in a Charlotte hotel room during a business trip. Lewis says the relationship was consensual. Now a judge must decide if testimony about their trip to Charlotte will be heard during the trial.
The tapes are damning evidence, and they refer and require the context of what took place in Charlotte.
If they can prove misconduct in office for any act in the state of South Carolina, we're willing to go to court and fight that.
The two also went back and forth about Neighbors' allegations of sexual assault on that Charlotte trip. The defense saying they don't think there's enough credibility to put that in front of a jury, but the prosecution really firing back, saying it would be nearly impossible for Neighbors to testify if she was told she had to leave some of these key details about that trip out, and the judge is expecting to come back with a decision sometime tomorrow. Reporting live in Greenville County, Kayla Conboy, Fox Carolina, the 10 o'clock news.
Kayla, thanks so much. And Judge Cooper